Thank you, Mr. Vishwanathan. We shall now break for lunch, ladies and gentlemen, and meet up exactly at 2 p.m. Thank you. An alumnus of Delhi and London School of Economics, has been teaching entrepreneurship and international business at premier business schools in India, US, and UK. India's leading strategist in crisis management, and has been associated with corporations and governments in sensitive negotiations and settlements. Look no further. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Nandini Vaidyanathan.
No, after lunch. I promise you, I won't let you sleep. I also promise you, I'll tell you lots of stories. And it's important that you participate. It's no use if you just keep listening to me talk. It's going to be boring for you and even more boring for me. Okay, so please make it participative. Yeah? Which movie is this dialogue from? Ye world hai na world. Which one? Ayyo. Bunty or Bubbly? Bang on. So what was he talking about? Both Amitabh and Abhishek keep saying it. But in, each time it's a different context. Can anybody complete this sentence? ये वर्ल्ड है ना वर्ल्ड, आगे क्या है? दो तरीके के लोग होते हैं, right? Like in the movie, they both talk about different kinds of people. In today's context, as far as I'm concerned, there are only two kinds of human beings. Those who think entrepreneurially and those who don't. As simple as that. What does this picture represent? Before I go to the picture, who is an entrepreneur? Since your theme is entrepreneurship, I'm guessing you all know who is an entrepreneur. But just for my benefit, who is an entrepreneur? Who is this animal that you would call an entrepreneur? No, and I'm not talking about this picture. I'm just generally asking. When we use the word entrepreneur, whom do we mean? Okay? So by definition then a person has to have his own enterprise. Is that the definition? Says who? Where did you get that from? Correct. So my point is that, does it mean that you are called an entrepreneur only if you start your own company? Not really. Anybody else? Somebody who thinks outside the box. What else? Willing to take risk. What else? Self-driven, motivated. What else? Anybody who is one of this or all of this is an entrepreneur? All of it? Then you're looking at an ideal animal, right? So who is an entrepreneur? No? We'll try and figure out during the next 1.5 hours what are the things you need to be doing to deserve to be called an entrepreneur. But broadly, I'd like to clarify right now that to be called an entrepreneur, it's not necessary that you have to start off your own company. You can work in Loop Mobile and still either be entrepreneurial or be an employee. So the distinction you guys need to remember is that if you are not entrepreneurial, your mindset is that of an employee. So is it good to be an entrepreneur or an employee? Correct. We will come to that. So it also depends on something called the organization culture. It's not just enough to say, yes, I'm going to think entrepreneurially if your organization culture is suffocating, does not allow you the freedom to think entrepreneurially. So all of it go hand in hand, and we'll come to that, during the course of the presentation. Yeah, but to my mind, an entrepreneur is somebody, irrespective of whether he brings capital to the table or not, thinks, feels, and behaves as if he owns the company, as if he owns the roadmap. It's not necessary that you own the company in terms of ownership, but as long as a P&L manager, you can take ownership of your roadmap. That's what is important, right? P&L, who draws the P&L? All business heads, who draw the P&L? Sandeep draws it? Who draws? No, in your organization, let's be specific, let's not go esoteric right now. In your organization, does Sandeep draw the P&L for you, or do the business managers draw the P&L themselves?
Yeah, they are organized by business now, because the business manager draws
the P&L. Why is that?
Because he owns it.
Because he owns it, he has to implement it. It is his vision which dovetails into the vision of the organization. And if he has no sense of ownership, if somebody is thrusting it upon him, chances are he will say, "Ye mera nahi hai, maine commit nahi kiya hai." Right? So instead of that, suppose it originated with me, it was my idea, my commitment, then I have a greater sense of responsibility to implement it. Right? That, to my mind, is somebody who thinks like an entrepreneur. So what does this picture represent? Many of you would have seen similar pictures in your parents' puja room or your grandparents' puja room, depending on your age. What does it represent? I'll give you a clue. It's representation of Vishnu. Garud, yes. What about Garud? There is both Garud and something else there. What is the role of Vishnu in the scheme of the universe? No, that's Brahma. Preserver. What is Shiva? Destroyer. So when you have the responsibility to preserve, what are the things you need? What are the traits you need to be a good preserver? What does preserve mean, by the way? Does it mean continuing with the same system even if the system has stopped working? Is that who a preserver is? What happened?
Preserve also means improve.
Correct. So in other words, what? Disrupt. So you review what is not working, you abandon it, and instead of leaving a void, you bring something else in its place that is working, that is going to work, right? That's the role of the preserver pretty much. Brahma is creating, Shiva is destroying. In other words, Shiva is disrupting, and it's the role of Vishnu to make sure what is created and what is destroyed does not, leave a gap and dovetail into each other very beautifully. That's his role. In other words, the role of Vishnu is perpetuation, continuation, making businesses continue, making the universe continue, right? So why would he be represented both in the form of Garud and in the form of a snake? In some pictures, if you see, you will see Vishnu riding on the back of the eagle. In some pictures, he is lying supine on a serpent. Both are his representation. Why? Coexistence, why? Why are both important? What is the balance here? When he's riding on the eagle, what is he doing? No, it's the 30,000 feet view. He's on the back of the eagle, flying on the back of the eagle. That's the 30,000 feet view. When he's lying down on the serpent, what is it? What view is the lying down on the ground? Right? No. No. He's seeing the ground reality. In other words, it's not good enough to say that you have an overview of things. Your business managers can't say, I know what the telecom industry is. Is that good enough? You also have to say what is happening within my own company. If you don't have the eye for detail, the ground level reality, your 30,000 feet view is going to mean nothing whatsoever. Am I right? Flip it. Is it enough to say, I know what's happening in my company? In today's context, when internet gives you so much of exposure, you darn well know what's happening in the industry. Is it enough to say, I know everything about the telecom industry? You better know what's happening in your economy. Is it enough if you know about Indian economy? What do you need to know? You need to have, so as somebody rightly said, you need a balance between the macro picture and the micro picture. The Garuda Drishti and the Sarpa Drishti. Good entrepreneurial thinking is about creating balance between the 30,000 feet view, where I know pretty much what's happening, you know, around the world, but that's not good enough. If people in my own team are selling the secrets of my company to my competitors, that's stupidity, right? So I need a balance between Garuda Drishti and Sarpa Drishti. I heard this story and I thought this was very interesting and I must share with you. A young lady of about 52 went to a dentist. Whilst she was waiting in the reception for the dentist to come, she saw the dentist's certificate, you know, hanging in the reception. She also saw his picture and his name. His name was Dr. Tejas. She looked at the name and said, oh, you know what? When I was in 8th standard, I had a classmate called Tejas, and oh, he was so cute, and I had this huge crush on him. But it can't be this guy, right? This guy looks so bloody old. I look so young, so he can't possibly be my classmate. Dr. Tejas walked out, and like she rightly suspected, he was pot-bellied, he was bald, there was nothing going for him, and she looked at him and was very disdainful and said, no, 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 this dude can't be my classmate. She walked in, but she couldn't resist. So she asked him, did you by any chance study in St. Anthony's? The guy beamed at her and said, yes, of course. So did you by any chance pass out in 1983? Absolutely. Oh my God, we were classmates. No, I don't think she said, oh my God, we were classmates. I think she said, oh my God, we were in the same school. So he looked at her and said, what subject did you teach? Imagine for a moment. Imagine for a moment. The guy was really mean, right? Imagine for a moment, you are the entrepreneur and that guy is your customer. Can you imagine the horror script? Such a huge gap in perception between you and your customer. Good entrepreneurial thinking is about making sure there is no such mismanagement in perception. What you think you are offering the market, your customer better think is the same thing that you are offering. There can't be such divergence of perception. A man had migrated from the village, stayed in the city a long time, got bored one day, said, let me go back to my village. I don't know what has happened in my village. Nothing much had changed. He took a train up to a point, he took a bus up to a point, and the last mile he still had to walk. Mid-hot afternoon, sun blazing, he felt sleepy. He went and slept under a banyan tree. Woke up to find cap missing. Looked around, couldn't find the cap. Somewhere along the way, he looked up. monkey sitting on top of the tree wearing cap. Somewhere along the way he figured monkey was imitating everything that he did. So finally he did this and he chucked it. The monkey took the cap out and chucked it. So he laughed at the monkey and said, see, I'm more evolved than you are in Darwin's evolution. So don't think you're very smart. And he went on his way. 15 years later, his son wanted to go back to his dad's village. Nothing much had changed. Took a train up to a point, took a bus up to a point, mid-hot afternoon, went and slept under the banyan tree. Opened his eyes, cap missing. Straight looked up, monkey sitting on top of the tree, monkey wearing cap. So he did this and he did this. Monkey laughed at him. So he looked at the monkey and said, hello, that's not part of the script. You're supposed to chuck it. Monkey laughed and said, what? You think only your father told you? My point, customer today is more empowered than you are. Before he makes a buying decision, his Excel sheet is in place. Chances are you don't know what your competitors are offering, but your customer knows everything there is to know in the marketplace. So if you want to seduce him, if you want him to keep coming back to you, if you want him to stay with you, what you need to offer has to be such compelling, unassailable value that he will not even think of going to somebody else. Most people I find, employees, entrepreneurs, what I do find is you all focus on the product. You don't focus on the customer. Logic in India is, अच्छा product दे दो, customer अपने आप आ जाएगा, रुक जाएगा. दोनों गलत है. आ भी नहीं जाएगा, रुकेगा भी नहीं. Because I think today, I don't know how many of you have backgrounds in marketing. What is the opposite of brand loyalty? No. Brand sluttishness. Most people today, most consumers today are brand sluts. They will go with whoever offers them better value. And definition of value changes moment to moment, which means your seduction has to be an ongoing exercise. It can't be that you seduced him once, he came to you, and that was the end of the story. It's not going to happen that way. So entrepreneurial thinking is about designing perpetual seduction. Not once, not twice, but time and time again. There was a time, many old-timers here will know what I'm talking about. There was a time when the marketing mantra was, give the customer what he wants. Am I right? Then that changed. What did it change to? Are you guys sleepy? Give him more than what he wants is what it changed to. Then there came a time when even that was not good enough. What did it change to? I'll give you a clue, Facebook. Give him what he did not even know he wanted. That's today. Did you know you wanted something like Facebook? Old-timers here, we had to wait for a telephone connection after booking, a landline connection after booking for 5 to 8 years. Youngsters here, do you even relate to a scenario like that? You go buy a SIM card, by the time you're home, if your mobile is not activated, aap maa behan gali doge na? What changed it for you? You didn't even know you wanted something like a mobile. You didn't even know you wanted something like a Facebook. Today, can you even imagine? Is there one person here who does not have a mobile? I rest my case. So entrepreneurial thinking is about giving customer what he did not even know he ever wanted, even before he could imagine it. What's the product here? Chromosome? No. There is a misprint, okay. All right. No, I'm not asking you to look at the title. We'll come to the title in a minute. I'm asking you, what's the product in the picture? Shoe? Looks like that, no? Would you be surprised if I told you the product is vacuum cleaner? And you can see the vacuum cleaner, I'm not joking. You can see the vacuum cleaner there. What are they trying to do? Look at the beautiful visual there. I don't mean what you think I mean. She's wearing heels. She's preoccupied because there are other interesting things going on in the room. But with just a mild push from her heel, she's able to move the vacuum cleaner around. What is? When you go to a McDonald's, do you go because of the burger or do you go because of something else? When you come to Novotel, do you go because the service is good or do you go because the product is good? In today's context, it's a moot point to talk about product or service. Good marketeers talk about? No? No? Experience, bang on. So XPD is experience design. I'm so sorry to disappoint you. XPD is experience design. It's a wonderfully new, evolving, science in marketing. The only way you can seduce your customer is to design the kind of experience that the customer could never, ever have imagined. That's the marketeer's challenge today. Look at your own industry. There are dime a dozen players, each one offering value either in terms of price or reach or whatever, value-added services. How do you survive in a market like this? How do you keep ensuring that you will grow? How do you keep ensuring somebody will, abandon Airtel and come to you? Not only come to you, but stay with you, not go off with, some other newcomer tomorrow. How do you ensure? By designing an experience which is so compelling, which is so mind-blowing, that it does not even occur to the customer that he can walk over. There's a beautiful English phrase called voting with your feet. Voting with your feet means walking away from something. Your customer will never dream of voting with his feet if you have designed the most wonderful and most compelling experience for him. You all remember a few years ago when Abdul Kalam was still with ISRO and Satish Dhawan was the Director General of ISRO. We launched for the first time our own indigenous satellite. You guys remember which one? Indigenous satellite called Rohini. It was called Rohini to begin with, then it became Rohini the first. The whole world and its mother said Indians are incapable of putting together an indigenous satellite. The Indian taxpayer said it's a waste of my money. We don't have the scientific temperament or the competency to put together something like this, so it's money down the drain. And Satish Dhawan and Abdul Kalam went to town saying, we have the competence, we have the best scientific minds, so we are going to put together. The whole world was watching. Rohini the first went up, went into orbit, burst into flames. Everybody said, see, we told you we didn't have the competence. Abdul Kalam went to Satish Dhawan and said, the press is waiting, baying for my blood. What do you want me to tell them? Dhawan said, no, you don't have to go. I will go and talk to them. So he came out, he met the press and he said, yeah, we thought we had, cracked everything. Obviously, there was still more work on the drawing board. Give us a year's time, we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll put together a new satellite. And everybody said, one more year, more money wasted, not going anywhere. Almost to the date. Next year, we launched Rohini the second. Textbook launch went off beautifully. And we became one of the few, to join the elite club of people, of countries that put together its own satellite. Kalam went to Dhawan and said, press is waiting. Why don't you go and talk to them? Dhawan said, no, it's your moment in the sun. You go talk to them. Entrepreneurial thinking is taking responsibility when there is a failure, giving credit when there is success. Unfortunately, in India, we are used to doing it the other way. Most of the time, when the project does well, we pat our backs and say, wow, I was leading it. Obviously, it was going to be a success, right? Didn't do well. You gave me such a third-rate team. How did you expect me to perform? Right? Good entrepreneurial thinking is being responsible, is saying my team deserves credit and I will take the blame. This again is a very Indian thing. I don't know whether it applies to you guys, but I have seen this across the board. When you become a manager, okay, even if there is an assistant attached to it, that is assistant manager, the moment there is a manager added to your title, you assume you know it all. So you will send your team for training. You will send your teams for upskilling. But will you nominate yourself? Unless it's a foreign trip. Chances are you won't, because there seems to be some admission of vulnerability there. If I go and tell Sandeep that, you know what, I think this Harvard program is damn good. It's not in Harvard, it's in Delhi, and I think I'd like to enroll. It's an online course. I think it will do wonders for me. How many of you will do that? Because you are scared Sandeep will turn around and say, kya, itna bhi malum nahi hai kya tumko? Why have I kept you then? You understand? So we will spend time, effort, money on upskilling the rest of the world, but we never ever think it's important to upskill ourselves. You know the statistic, right? People leave companies not because companies are bad, but because bosses are bad. What do we mean by bosses are bad? Most of us feel we know more than our bosses. Am I right? Sala pata nahi why he is my boss. Yeah, the laughter is too hearty. Good entrepreneurial thinking is to make sure not only your teams are invested in, but invested in yourself. Because otherwise, your teams will outsmart you, and one day they'll say, no point, I don't know why you are still the boss. Again, another Indian thing I have noticed, we don't have a sense of humor. We laugh at the world, but we don't know to laugh at ourselves. Am I right? How many of you say, I am fat? I'm ugly. And how many of you laugh at yourself saying that? So some exceptions, right? But otherwise, by and large, we will laugh at everybody else, but we won't laugh at ourselves. Good story here. Woolworth, you've all heard of the supermarket Woolworth, right? When Woolworth, basically he was British, although he opened the store in the suburb of New York. Right next to where he opened, there was already a supermarket. And the supermarket guy possibly felt a little threatened. So about a week after Woolworth had opened the store, he put a board outside his store. Been in business for 50 years, everybody buys from us. Meaning to say, don't go to this new kid on the block, ye kal parso wala hai, kal parso chala jayega, so don't go there. Woolworth came the next morning, saw the board. If it was us, we'd have gone and fought with him, saying, pehle board nikalo. How dare you put a board like this, right? Woolworth, like I said, Brit, didn't do anything, went in, wrote something on a board, and put the board outside. And what did the board read? Opened business last week, no old stock. When we know things are going wrong, how many of us have the guts to say things are going wrong? How many of us here? I want to see a show of hands. How many of us have the guts to say, the moment, the first inkling you get that something is not going right, how many of us say, hey, just not feeling good about this? What's the easier option? Easier option to hide, to deny? नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. ये रोज क्यों लेट आता है? नहीं, घर में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, रोज इसीलिए लेट आता है. How many of you say probably he's attending interviews every morning and coming here? You don't, no? Confront. Good entrepreneurial thinking is the ability to look at yourself in the mirror and say, bloody shit, there is something seriously wrong here. And before it becomes wrong, I want to set it right. Jim Stockdale, don't know how many of you have heard his name, Admiral Jim Stockdale, was the highest ranking officer captured by the Viet Cong. 8 years, he and his whole platoon were incarcerated. 8 full years. They went in as 219-member platoon. When they came out, there were only 3 of them who survived. So the first press conference, somebody from the press asked Jim, you guys must have survived because you were optimistic? So Jim Stockdale said, no, you guys don't get it. We survived because we were pessimistic. How? How does that work? So he said, when we were imprisoned for the first time, everybody said, oh, you know what? This is July. By September, by Ganesh Chaturthi, we'll be out. Ganesh Chaturthi came and went, nobody was out. Oh, by December, by Christmas, we're going to be out. Christmas came and went, nobody was out. Oh, by next summer, we will be home. Next summer came. All of them died of a broken heart. What did the 3 of us do? The 3 of us sat down and said, buddy, you ain't getting out from here. Deal with it. What else can you do? Deal with it. I think very important part of entrepreneurial thinking is your ability to look at a problem in the eye before it has become a problem, an unfixable problem, and say, okay, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to do something about it. What's a grinder? There is no E, so don't tell me it is dosa grinder. What is G-R-I-N-D-R? You guys don't follow apps? I've given you a clue. It's an app. It's an app which, if you are gay, will tell you who the other gays are in this room. What am I talking about? Build a grinder. Build a team. Build a team. Like-minded team. Like-minded team does not mean people who think like me. Or, you know, yes men. It does not mean that. What does it mean? Like-minded in terms of value. That we all want the same thing at the end of the day. For our company, for our organization. Bill Hewlett used to say something interesting. Bill Hewlett of Hewlett-Packard used to say something interesting. He said most organizations build products first and then hire people. He said that's not the correct way of going about it. The correct way of going about it is put good people together first. Good people build great products. Great products make fantastic organizations. Most of us, if you look at any vision statement of any company, and I'm sure it's the same with Loop Mobile, one of the things apart from saying, oh, we are customer-centric, we want to make profit, we want to deliver stakeholder value, one of the other things we also say is, what do we say? People are our most important asset. Am I right? All people are not our most important asset. Right people are. And we never seem to remember that. So how do we choose right people? Bill Hewlett again says something interesting. He says, choose somebody who is not asking where the bus is going. The bus has stopped outside Novotel. Don't get into the bus because of where the bus is going. Get into the bus because of who the other people in the bus are. Because that's how you build a talent pool, right? So good entrepreneurial thinking is not just about treating people as assets, not just about saying people are our assets or whatever. It's about the ability to choose the right people and then assetizing them. And then saying, okay, each one of you think like an entrepreneur, and therefore we build a wonderful organization culture. This is a personal story. When I came back from the US, I had a problem with one of my credit cards, so I went to JP Morgan in Bangalore. So I had an appointment with the person who was supposed to be in charge of credit cards. Young girl, this was probably her first job, 24, 25. So I said, what time do you want me to come? She said, come by 2:30. I said, okay. My habit typically is if I'm supposed to meet somebody at 2:30, I'm usually there by 2:15. So I went at 2:15. I went to the security and I said, 2:30 mera appointment hai madam se. Haan ji, aap baith jao, 15 minute hai. So 2:30, and see, I walk up to him and I say, where is the girl? I'm supposed to meet her at 2:30. Nahi, madam busy hai. I said, okay, I went and sat. Madam was busy till 5 o'clock. Every 15 minutes I went, I kept going to security saying, madam ko bolo, nahi, madam busy hai. I said, okay. So all along in the reception, at a, then in a reception this size, there must have been at least 10 vision statements. Same vision statement, 10 copies. So one of the things it said in that is, the reason we are is because of our customer. So I'm looking at it. So the girl came out. The security guard told her, ye madam tang kar rahi hai. I could make out the way he pointed out to me. So she came up to me and frowned, she said, what? I said, I had an appointment with you at 2:30. Under normal circumstances, after waiting for half an hour, I'd have walked out. Okay? But that day I was so jiddi, I said, kabhi na kabhi is ladki ghar to jayegi. Let me sit down and wait till such time. So I sat. She comes out at 5. What? I said, I had an appointment with you at 2:30. Yeah, but I was busy. So I caught hold of her collar, dragged her to one of the vision statements, and I said, see, we are customer-centric. That is me. I'm the customer. Is this your customer centricity? If you have no consistency between your behavior and the trouble with vision statements in most companies is it just hangs in the reception. I don't think even the receptionist knows what hangs there. If there is no consistency, it's a pointless exercise. How many of you saw a movie called Toy Story? Not many movie buffs here, right? What was different about Toy Story? Do you know who made it? Anybody? Pixar. Toy Story was made by an unknown company called Pixar, which was a full-blown team of 7 people. It was the first digitally animated movie in the world. Nobody expected it to be such a huge success. It was. Who do you think felt threatened? Walt Disney, by definition. But don't forget, Walt Disney is a 120-year-old company with phenomenal properties. I mean, the best of animation in the world today is either Warner Brothers or Walt Disney, mostly Walt Disney. But Walt Disney felt threatened. Why do you think it felt threatened? Because at the moment, to 25,000 people employed by Walt Disney, there were 7 people, all of 7 people in Pixar. Why should Disney feel threatened?
Steve Jobs was heading.
Yeah, but Steve Jobs was a nobody. It could have been me or you. It wouldn't have made any difference. Not all there. Tomorrow they could become a bigger threat. Today there are only 7 people, 1 property, no big deal. But seeing the potential, the capability, first movie, if they could deliver Toy Story 1, what could happen in the future? So they foresaw that tomorrow Pixar could become a threat. So what did they do? What do you do when a competitor is a threat? The best way to kill competition is to buy out competition, right? And that's exactly what Disney did. Disney bought out Pixar. because Disney was very clear. They will not sit on their haunches and wait for Pixar to become a problem tomorrow, and then they will have to address it. So entrepreneurial thinking is about preempting what could possibly become a problem tomorrow and fixing it even before it becomes a problem. Which is the world's largest photocopier company? Somebody said Xerox, somebody said Canon. Xerox used to be, Canon is. Xerox used to be number one for donkey's years. For donkey's years. Canon got, what was Canon famous for? Camera, right? What camera was actually, who was the competitor Canon was, fighting against to get into the camera space? Kodak is not a camera company. Okay, I'll give you the country, Germany. Yes? Yashica is Japanese. I gave you Germany. No. I said Germany. Leica. Canon wanted to compete against Leica in the 35mm space. That's the reason they got into the camera business. And in fact, they beat Leica hollow at some point, right? Canon wanted to get into the photocopier space because Xerox had run out of patents, which means it was out in the public domain. What is called PPC technology, plain paper copier technology. Up until then, I don't know how many of you even remember this. You needed special kind of paper to take photocopies. It's with the PPC technology that, Xerox kind of opened up the market. You could use any paper and still you got, damn good quality of copies, right? So Canon wanted to get into the photocopier space because Xerox had outrun all its patents. And Canon thought there was a good opportunity there. So what do you think Canon did before getting into the market? When there is a big muscle like Xerox, what do? What's the best strategy? What's the strategy? I thought this was a strategy meet, no?
You understand what the strength was. You understand what the strength was.
How do you do that? Go ask the customer. That's exactly what Canon did. Went to Xerox's customers and said, are you happy with Xerox? Everybody said, bloody good copier. It's made our life so easy. We love it. Did Canon get disappointed? They kept persisting. They kept asking needling questions. What are you is there something you're unhappy with? Somebody at some point said, you know what, it's a wonderful copier, but it's a bloody mother.